Hi, everyone. You're listening to Live with Necee. I am your host, Opal Bailey, and I have with me today Robin Lee. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good. Thank you for coming on our show, and I'm going to get right into it. So I would like to know, how did you start out being a caregiver?
I think my story is pretty typical from what I've heard from other people. I have a brother who was living close to our parents, and I lived in another state and had my life going on. But what I hear is quite often boys will not take up caregiving responsibilities. I received a phone call from my father saying that he and my mother had decided they needed caregiving, and my brother simply wasn't stepping up. They wanted me to move to Florida and start helping them out, and that's exactly what I did.
When you said start helping them out, what are some of the things that you had to help them out with or face when you came?
One of the first things was that they had both recently had close calls with car accidents. I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that when their parents got older, they became concerned and had real struggles trying to get their parents to give up the car keys. My parents were more than ready to give up the car keys. They both had gotten to the point where they did not want to drive, and that was one of the first things that happened. Was I got here and they needed to be driven to doctor's appointments, the bank, the grocery store. They needed a lot of chauffeuring around, and we got right into that.
So how did you handle being thrown, in a sense, into something that was so out of your area?
This is something that is very close to my sensibility of educating yourself. And one of the reasons I'm glad to have the opportunity to be on this program is to encourage people to study and research before they get thrown in at the deep end. I did get thrown in at the deep end, and I had to enter a very fast, steep learning curve. Mm-hmm. But I think if you realize that almost everyone at some point, if they live long enough, is going to be either a caregiver or they're going to need caregiving themselves. Mm-hmm. This affects almost all of us sooner or later.
How did it change your life?
Well, it just totally changed my life. I had to give up my life and come down here, and just you become dedicated to taking care of whoever you're taking care of. And of course, for me, it was my elderly parents, but also you have people who are caregiving for children, for people they know who are in serious illnesses, and some people I've heard of who are caregiving not for family members, but they may be caregiving for a neighbor or a coworker or a church member.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How did you feel about being uprooted from a life that you were so comfortable and evidently you enjoy doing, and coming to take care of your parents?
I was very happy with my life. I had my dream job. I had a great circle of friends. I had a wonderful social life. Was very, very happy with my life. And I'll be very honest, I was very resentful of having to come and take care of my parents. This was not what I had envisioned for myself in my later years, and I was not happy about it. And I'll be perfectly honest, I'm still not happy about it.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges you're still facing, even after you have uprooted and come with your, and taking care of your parents?
Various challenges would be, you have to have a lot of patience. And especially, I'll be detailed about my situation, and that is I had a mother who had Alzheimer's, and I have a father who has dementia. I had to do research and find out that those are two different things. but both of them require a lot of patience to deal with them. When you have somebody who is asking you the same question for 15 minutes, and every time you answer the question, they just ask it again, you have to realize that there is something blocking in their brain, and they've got something on their mind. It's bothering them. They just cannot process the answer, and they will keep asking that question until you are really ready to just explode. But you learn some coping techniques. For example, distract them.
That's good.
Yeah.
So how would you distract them?
Well, with my parents, one good way is saying, would you like some ice cream? How about we have some ice cream? Or let's go out and sit on the balcony. Or just change the subject.
So when that happened, when you changed the subject, what did it do for them? Did they ask something different, or they kind of settled down or relaxed, or?
They'll just go in the new direction, because what's going on when they keep repetitively asking the question is that they've got that on their mind, and you just need to get them off from that. Mm-hmm. And once you do, they let it go. Now, they get it the next day or that afternoon or 3 days from now, but you just keep going. Mm-hmm. Some of the other challenges I got into with my parents, I wound up having to learn how to manage their finances. They were in their 90s, and with both of them having the mental challenges, they were trying to handle their finances and really had a number of forest fires going on that I was completely unaware of until they suddenly got into such a bad situation that they dumped it in my lap and said, here, we've got some problems. And when I started finding out what the problems were, my hair was on fire, but I had to learn to deal with those things. But other challenges are dealing with other family members. I have only one other family member, my brother, but he is a constant source of problems. He does not want to help out with caregiving, and he also comes over and he has some mental challenges, and so he goes into rages and he creates problems. He threatens and intimidates our dad, and it does a lot of very negative things. So that's challenging in that I not only have to deal with my dad, but I have to deal with all this extra stuff with my brother, and that's really another challenge. Another thing is that you just feel overwhelmed. You wind up with so many things that you're trying to do, and you feel as if you're having to do everything. And a lot of the time you are worrying, am I going to catch everything? Am I going to handle everything? Am I staying on top of everything? It's so overwhelming. You don't ever get any time off. And I haven't had a vacation in 5 years since I've been here, and I don't expect I'll be able to have a vacation or take a break until such time as my dad passes away. And he's 97 years old, and the doctors all say he's in perfect health, and he's liable to live another 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. There's nothing right now that's going to cause him to die, and so I'm looking at a very extended time period. By the time he passes away, I'm going to be old.
Oh. How do you deal with the life needs if you've always tended to your parents? How do you deal with your life needs?
You absolutely have to continue to take care of yourself. And I hear a lot of people who are in caregiving who are just spending all their time with their caregiving duties. What I've come to realize is that you have to take care of yourself, because if something happens to you, how what's going to happen to the people that you're doing caregiving for? You can't caregive for someone else if you aren't in condition to do that. And how you do that is you take care of yourself. I had already started doing some things to give myself some breaks, and I was feeling somewhat guilty about it, but I talked to the social worker who deals with my dad's case, and she was the one who brought it up. She said, I hope you're doing some things for yourself because you've got to have some kind of relief or you're going to go under. Mm-hmm. So I take some classes at the libraries. The libraries are a great resource, and I take care of my health, and I spend time with friends, and I try to have a balance.
Mm-hmm. So evidently, you're able to leave the home and do certain things by yourself, for yourself.
Yes, and the way that I'm able to do that is because I have assembled a team that helps me out. If I had not gotten these people together, I could not. And this is something I really recommend to people who are doing caregiving. Please don't try to do it all by yourself because you're very likely to crash and burn. And what I want people to know is there is help out there. You may have to struggle to find it because they're not going to come and knock on your door, but help is out there, and do your research, ask questions of other caregivers, and find the people, put together that team that you need to help you.
So how did you find the team that you needed to help you with your caring for your father?
One of the ways was I went to the library and I started checking out books on caregiving, and some of them had organizations that you can contact. I don't have a computer and I don't use a computer, so I wasn't able to go online and research organizations. A lot of people, most people have that as a resource. But talk to other caregivers, talk to your doctors, and you can look in the phone book, talk to people at your church, and just start asking questions and find people who can help you. So, of course, when you talk about putting together a team, you're going to think that the first type of person I'm going to talk about is medical. But no, I'm going to say the first person you should be talking to is an attorney. And one of the reasons is you need a power of attorney, because you probably won't know it until you come slam up against this. But what happened to me was that I had to take my dad to the emergency room. And when I had him there and I was trying to talk to the doctors about what did the test results say, what do you think is going on with him, what are we supposed to be doing for him, the answer I got from the doctors is, if you don't have a power of attorney, we legally cannot talk to you. Mm. And I said, but I'm his daughter and I have proof of identity and I need to know. And they said, nope, power of attorney or nothing. So I had to go to the attorney. I had to get a power of attorney. And I'm telling you, that has come in so handy so many times. I provided a copy to all his doctors, to the hospital, and now I keep a copy in a file in my car, because it's amazing how many times you're trying to deal with people on behalf of the person you're doing caregiving for, and they say, we have to have proof that you have power of attorney or we can't talk to you. Mm-hmm, so you need to get that power of attorney. It's also good to check in and see what other legal issues might be pertinent. For example, you really need to know if the person has a will. You need to know about the status of their ownership of where they're living. If they have a condo or a house, do they own it or are they renting? And what about their car? do they have any other property? What's the legal status of all these things? An attorney is going to be a great member of your team, and we've had to go to the attorney for various other reasons pertinent to our situation. It's great when you've got that attorney who knows your situation already and is there to help you. There are attorneys in this area because we have a high percentage of elderly people. There is a branch of law called elder law. If your person does not already have a personal attorney, I would strongly advise trying to find an attorney who specializes in elder law. They're going to know about issues that you have never thought of, and you will need help with those things.
That's a good resource.
Absolutely. And it's peace of mind. Of course, you're going to want to talk about doctors. If your person already has doctors, you're going to want to become familiar with them and have them become familiar with you. When I first got here, both of my parents were going to somebody as a GP, and he had them on numerous prescriptions. To make a long story short, I did some research. I had him do more testing on my parents about the prescriptions, and it turned out my mother was able to go on 0 prescriptions, and my father is on 1.
Wow.
I also found out that instead of being a GP, he was actually a lung specialist. Neither of my parents had lung problems. I don't know, and they couldn't explain to me why they were going to this particular doctor, but he was the wrong doctor for them. I've gotten them to a different doctor. And also, over time, they've needed some specialty doctors, skin cancer doctors, cardiologists, specialists like that. And those are going to be your medical team. And you need to have that team for the particular needs of your family members. Mm-hmm. Also, you're going to be surprised that you may need to do some research on what does your family member own in terms of property. I just got a real shock recently because I knew that my dad owned his condo outright. I went to the tax collector's office to change my driver's license and just on an impulse said, "How are the taxes on my dad's condo?" The lady looked it up and she said, "Great, your dad's condo taxes are fine, but he's behind in his taxes for the other 2 pieces of property that he owns." I said, "What other 2 pieces of property?" She said, "Well, he owns 2 other pieces of property and he's behind in his taxes and you might want to look into that." She said, "Why don't you go down to the tax assessor's office and talk to them?" I got down there. The lady talked to me. She printed out some information for me. I went home and said to my dad, "Do you own 2 other pieces of property?" And he says, "Oh, yeah."
You're like, "I'm sure I do." Yeah. Why don't you know that?
I had no idea. Mm-hmm. So that's a very good thing to check into, and it's not something that you might think of.
Now, Robin, you mentioned about the attorney having a good team. First thing as attorney, and I think that is really, really awesome for you to think about that first, because normally as a caregivers, we don't think that's the first thing to do. But what service have you used or are you using to care for your dad when you're not home? Who are you using?
Oh, I do have some people who assist, and I have we have Health First Insurance, and they have private duty caregivers. We found a wonderful lady who comes in for 4 hours every day. She cooks him a hot, nourishing meal every day, and she will do light housekeeping. And actually, we kind of laugh about it because I'm very into housekeeping, so I'd be doing things myself. But she says she's there for 4 hours, and so she wants me to leave things for her to do. So she changes his bed. She changes out the linens in his bathroom. She washes clothes. and she does some light housekeeping. And because she's there for 4 hours, that's when I am free to go out and run errands, go to the grocery store, meet friends for breakfast or lunch, go to the library, just do some things for me. And we also have a wonderful thing that I found out about, which is in-home hospice care. We got involved with that after I read about it in a magazine, and we got signed up for that. So from that, my dad has a whole team of people who come to help out with him. Every day he has somebody who shows up and helps him take his shower and helps him get dressed in the morning. That is invaluable. We also have a nurse who comes once a week and checks him and sees that he is doing all right physically. There's a chaplain who comes and talks to him. And we have a doctor who, believe it or not, makes house calls. You know how rare
so
that is.
You have the A team,
Really
not
do.
just a team.
Yes. And it's been surprising to me how few people know that this is available.
Now, is this a private service that you went out and you hired them? Is this through a company or?
Well, there are 2 different companies in this area who are the major providers of this service that I am aware of. One is called St. Francis, and that's through the Catholic charity. But the people we went through are called VITAS, and that is V as in Victor, ITAS. They are the nation's largest hospice provider. And people thought, and actually it started out that hospice was at end-of-life care, and people would go into a hospice and be cared for there prior to death. But hospice has really evolved, and now they have what's called in-home hospice. They come to your home. They come with everything that the client needs. So, for example, when my mom was dying, they brought in a hospital bed. We had nurses around the clock, 24/7, taking care of her, providing her with pain meds so that she never suffered, seeing that she stayed hydrated. It was fantastic, and I cannot recommend them highly enough. They are such a help.
So how did you deal with all of everything going on too? I know your mom had passed away and you still had the responsibility of looking after your dad. How do you continue to keep going on even now, every day?
It's hard. It really is. It's a struggle every day. I'm not going to lie. And you get to the point sometimes where you feel so overwhelmed, you wonder if you can go on. But you have to, because there's nobody else to do it. So it's one of those things that you keep struggling. And I will say it has been helpful to have friends. If you're inclined to this, the church is always a source of strength. And it helps to talk to other people. I will say the biggest surprise that I have discovered is that how many times I have just casually mentioned that I'm doing caregiving, and so many people will respond by saying, I know exactly what you're going through because I was a caregiver or I am a caregiver. Mm-hmm. I'd say about 80% of the people that I meet have some kind of caregiving experience. It's amazing.
Well, it's also good as a caregiver to have a support system.
Yes, absolutely.
It's vital to be able to have someone that you can talk about your struggles to. You can talk about the issues you're dealing with and share resources together. And have you seen the benefit in having a support system?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I was talking about. I do run across people who are trying to deal with this on their own. You don't need to, and please don't do that, because you will really run yourself into the ground. It is very tiring, it's draining, it's stressful, and you need to have help, and there is help available. I did want to mention specifically one of the agencies in this area that is called Aging Matters in Brevard. They are a clearinghouse agency. They don't provide services themselves, but they work with about 40 different agencies. If you call them up, and they're in the phone book, and you say, here's the problem that I'm struggling with, they can hook you up with help. They're great.
So have you used them as well in the...
Yes, because I've had different problems, and sometimes it's a problem that's very short term. For example, I know that there are times that people may have car problems, but they have someone they're caregiving for who needs to get to that doctor's appointment. You can call Aging Matters in Brevard. They will put you through to, there's a car service where if you need a ride to something like a doctor's appointment, they'll get you there and home. How great is that?
That is amazing. I mean, it's really good that you're bringing all of this up, because as caregivers, one, most of the time don't have time to really research. But I know you're saying to take the time, but then sometimes when you're so caught up in caring for the person, you don't have time. But it's good to know that we have resources.
Yes.
That is available.
Yes.
And is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners?
I would like to give a plug for the libraries, because they have so many resources available. When you're a caregiver, not only do they have the books that you can do research in, but every library has programs that they have available for you. Many of them have exercise programs. You need to stay in good shape yourself. They have movies. They have classes. This has been a great resource for me to just get me out of the house, and a lot of these things go on during the day. So when I have other people at the house covering for me, I can get out and go do something, and it just takes your mind off everything, and that's what you need to do. And they also, of course, have DVDs, CDs, books, magazines, all those things that you can check out, take home, so that even though you may feel that you're stuck at home, you still have some entertainment and some mental and emotional relief. So they're great.
Well, we're living in a society where a lot of us are we find ourselves taking care of a lot of people.
Yes.
Whether they are sick or maybe on the verge of being sick or whatever, for whatever reason. And it is good to be able to know that you're not alone. And I believe that's what you're basically telling us.
Yes.
That you're not alone.
Exactly.
And that you help. And most of the time it's asking.
Yes. Yes, that's been the key, because when you start off and you're in this situation, you're just looking around going, what do I do? Where is help? How do I find someone? And I did that at first. I was looking through the phone book. I was desperately looking in the back of books, trying to find organizations. But as I started asking for help and talking to people, I found out, yes, there is help available. You're going to have to make a little effort to contact these people. But once you do, the help is absolutely there. And there are so many people and so many organizations out there. So I just hope that people realize, don't struggle by yourself. Don't think that you're alone. Don't think that you have to do it all on your own.
Well, thank you, Robin, for coming out and sharing with us. And we know that you have definitely given us a lot of resources and a lot of things to think about as well. So we appreciate you coming out.
You're welcome.
And thank you, listeners, for listening to Live with Necee. I am your host, Opal Bailey. God bless.